Well, we're looking forward for our kids to be their marriage again long lasting. We'll see what's happened. Let me move to Mr. Guy. Hello, Mr. Guy. Yeah, hi. So, okay, so I have a very special question, things to ask you today. Um, do you believe that they should go into a live-in relationship, but avoid marriage if possible? Because in many cases, they've been dating for many years, it works. But once they get married, and it's like disaster. It break. So what do you think? What should be applied for the
Well,
benefit?
that's a very good question. But I think there's a few nuances to it. Uh, to start with that, I would say that in certain cultures, you have common law marriage, which is perhaps
Mm.
less common in Singapore than it is in Europe. But a common law marriage can be treated no differently to a sort of contractual legal marriage. So from that perspective, that there's can be some ambiguity over sort of what actually constitutes marriage anyway. But just in terms of the larger question of sort of entering a kind of union as marriage, I think to your earlier question about, what lessons we could have learned from the past. I think one thing that we kind of have to be aware of is that the world has changed somewhat, and it might be unrealistic to expect that we can sort of learn lessons from marriages of the past for them to work in the future. For me, I think one of the big changes is marriage is no longer really a sort of social or cultural necessity. So kind of what seems to be happening is maybe it can now be counterproductive to sort
Yeah.
of put pressure on the younger adults to get married, because the pressure that they have might lead them into something which in a few years later they might realize they don't actually even need to do, and they may change their minds on that. So perhaps counterintuitively, it would be good to put less pressure on marriage and actually allow marriage to only happen when people really want it, and I think, it could be great that, marriages of the future could be more based on, a genuine sort of love and connection between two people, and I particularly think in terms of with the focus on more social and mental awareness and growth, people can develop closer and tighter and healthier bonds than they've ever been able to in the past. So, from that perspective, I think that requires a little bit of a mind shift change to marriage going
Yeah.
forward.
Thank you so much. In the marriage, let's say in future, I mean, if the I mean, mostly of them, they are choosing actually to live in relationships. In this, don't you think that if they go for long, I mean, live-in relationship and they have a kids, right?
Mhm.
And if they get divorced, okay, so obviously the wife will not be. I mean, there'll be a different law from the court compared to the marriage. So, what do you suggest for the in this kinds of the child, because who will be facing from the society pressure, okay, because my parents are not married, those kind of taboo, that my parents are not married, I'm out of the wedlock. The impact do you think this impact is going to be affected? They will affect them in general, or it's going to be normal in future? Maybe it's like, oh, like there's the record, I mean the marriage, the marriage concept is going to be lost basically in future.
Well,
Everybody's looking at that.
I would say that we could do things to reduce the negative impact of divorce and breakup. So I mean, for sure, like currently, the negative impact of divorce and breakup is quite severe. I think it's commonly talked about as one of the most, if not the
Yeah.
most stressful thing you can go through as a life experience, right?
Right. Right.
So I do think I think there are ways that we could change that. Of course, some people are always going to be affected. It's going to be bad for some people. So, but generally for everyone, what I would, I mean, I would suggest that currently, just the way divorce is handled from a finance and from a legal perspective is possibly a part of it's almost incentivizing a fight, a battle, a contest, which is often sort of encouraging negative behavior between parties, which leads to more animosity and leads to more destruction to the children. You know, I think there's some quite radical things actually that could be done to improve that. I mean, we basically have to think, well, how do we discourage that? You know, and I mean, what one idea that I had on that front was, I mean, first is like, you know, a lot of the battle tends to be around because of finances, right? So it's often because of the child, but very often that as well can have some sort of financial reasons behind it as well. So maybe in terms of like, you know, the marital asset split, there could be just a more of a sort of general broad brush approach to sort of splitting what was acquired during their marriage, you know, which I from my perspective, I think that works a little bit better in
Yes.
cultures that use that, you know, where they just say, you know, stuff acquired in marriage is split, and it reduces animosity, you know, and I think there's less aggravation caused because of that. And going on to the maintenance point too, I mean, you know, I was thinking about that, and you know, honestly, if you think about it, right, if you have a child, nobody expects you to spend a certain amount of money on your child. You're free to spend whatever you want, but it's your child. You love them, and you want to spend money on them, right? And you want to sort of do things. So I would kind of argue that there should be the lightest touch as possible, you know, but like a broad brush approach for maintenance, which is like almost like a living wage sort of bare base minimum survival type basis, right? And that will completely change the incentivized situation, because ultimately, you know, if people want to help their child, they have to contribute, and they want to be involved to do that. So I think that would encourage more positive engagement, and it would actually sort of you know, people just like people when they have children and they don't get divorced, they don't abandon their child. So why would they do that when they were divorced? You know, I think the having to sort of expect people to pay enormous amounts of money that match, which I mean, a court can never really predict what somebody would do, and situations are so variable these days. I mean, jobs change, you know, in every 6 months, you know, and so it's impossible to really say somebody should always be paying this forever and a day, and there's so much variability for so many reasons that I think that more of a broad brush, everyone is accountable for just like a bare survival rate, you know, sort of a living sort of level, regardless of people's income, etc. You know, and then beyond that, of course, people want to contribute to their child and pay for better schooling, better, you know, and actually then that's brilliant, you know, and people can sort of get involved to do that, right? And I don't see why that wouldn't happen, personally, you know,
Yeah.
and I think that would change the mindset to sort of people actually wanting to contribute and help, rather than sort of feeling like they're sort of being stung, and you know, that's the way I would go. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Guy. And let me move to Pamela. Hi, Pam.
Hi, Aarti.
Yes, I had um, before our generation, right? Like until our parents and grandparents, the couple, the marriage, and everything was something like perfect. Even though they used to be having like they will have issues or breakdown or something, but I mean most of them, not all. I mean I'm asking most of them. If you look at the village, you look at the back to the town, or any you can also take it like, you know, not only in India, Singapore, even in US and other countries also, the our grandparents and our parents, the marriage will last until very long. I'm sure they've been fighting, and they've been doing so many things that they will not like each other, and but they will not reach to the so until so extreme decision of getting breakdown and all. But during our generations happening so much, do you think is it because of the women empowerment? Or what could be the main reason? Because we as a woman, like over there, maybe earlier on, the woman used to listen to more. What I understand, like a guy or even guys or the husbands, they will listen to the woman. Okay, we'll listen so she doesn't nag, or there's something like give and take, And like what Mr. Janak said, have we lost patience? Are we not strong enough like them? And if what could be the reason, and what would you like to tell to our future kids? How can they be similar or better than our grandparents' generation?
There's a lot of things to come into play now. Women empowerment means that a woman is looked at as upon as a equal. She's given equal rights. I think even in the US, at a certain point, women were not allowed to vote.
Yes.
If you watch certain movies in the UK, women were not allowed to do certain things. So perception previously was that Asian women were the one who were not allowed to do a lot of things. Globally, a long time ago, women were their role was to be at home and not um we suppress a woman. The woman's kingdom or her palace was her home. Actually,
Yeah.
if you look, and but women slowly started asking for rights. Yes, for me, I'm also quite feminist, but I will not say that. Um, oh, I am superior to a man. No, I'm not like that. I mean, there may be ladies outside there who would say that, but the thing is, I would always like to say that we have equal rights to work, opportunities to study, everything being equal. So if a woman, say for example, is extreme and she says, I am empowered, then you want to get married.
I think ego,
Then,
the ego plays part here. The
yeah,
ego plays
I'm
part. This is
also
why
open,
there's no
but the
forgiveness.
thing is, I won't say that I won't agree on that set on that matter where a lady says a woman can come and shoot me down the road tomorrow if they want to tell me about this. But the thing is, I would say, don't say I'm an empowered woman and say I want to get married, because it's an irony. If you're an empowered woman and you want to get married, or if you want to climb the corporate ladder, don't take advantage of a man. Don't use a man as like a temporary financial supplier and say, yeah, I want the best of marriage, but after that I don't need a man. uh, Go and be single and achieve what you want to achieve. I think that is, if you want to be an empowered woman, to be on your own and you want to do this, um, there comes a point when there is a life partner and you have to see things in their point of view. In a marriage, it is like a bicycle. There has to be a wheel that is a husband and a wheel that is a wife, and that's how the bicycle moves. It cannot be that, oh, I am going to go first and then after that you go. How can the bicycle move? How can the marriage move? It takes both parties. So for me, if you look at it, a lot of times I feel that it's not purely feministic. It is just um, in those days when marriages happen, and this is a bit of there's a thin line lah. When there were marriages, and I remember my grandmother, in fact, my grand auntie telling me the marriage of my grandmother, how it was. The wife would listen to the husband,
Yes.
and this was in 1940s. I remember her telling me this when
I think
we were
even in
in the
1990s, up to until 1990s,
yeah.
even like 2000 or so, I've seen the woman. Okay, it's not about like she's a
Mm.
puppet or she's a servant or she's a
No,
slave.
no, she's not.
It's
She's not.
about
She's just
she's very well respected. But
yes,
I
yes.
believe that there is ego or there's something which
But there
is
is a family that was around the you see
yes, that also
with
to
extended
help
families.
them. Yes.
Yes, and the thing is, even in those extended families, there are some family members who would give issues. Yes, of course, there were people who would manipulate. But the thing is, there are family members that we can turn to solve certain issues. Of course, sometimes they say they are third parties, they are not supposed to get involved. Yes, a marriage is between a husband and a wife. Yes. When you say third party should not get involved, meaning that people who have no good heart or interest for this couple to be together, I think that's
I
where
also believe that the women, they feel they can easily walk out of the marriage.
anybody these days feels that they can easily walk out of a marriage. The question is, if you ask me, it's tied into your next question where you're asking me what I would tell the future generation. I also
Yes.
talk to my kids about it. My girls are 18 and 19 this year. They meet the opposite sex regularly in school and all that. What I tell them is, okay, I hope you are, I mean, after seeing my marriage not work out, I just tell them, I hope you will get married. I hope that you marry for the right reasons, because like I said earlier in my conversations with you guys, that people, when they get married, why are they getting married is very, very important. Are you getting married because your mother said so, your grandmother says you're the only child left behind who hasn't gotten married, my eldest grandson not married yet, no great grandchild? That is not supposed to be the reason at all, because when the marriage doesn't work out, then who's to be blamed? You shouldn't say you chose the wrong partner. Or the reason, you must have the right reason to marry. Why am I getting married? Because I am ready for marriage. I
Yes.
want a life partner. I want to be married for my entire life. It shouldn't be I marry for now, then we see lah whether it works out or not. 6 months later, if it doesn't work, it's okay, I'll apply for it. If
Exactly.
within the 6 months